What's up, guys? I need to work on some thumbnails for Vika, and I wanted to kind of take this opportunity to talk a little bit about something that um, many of you have asked me about before, and that is how to go about setting up shadows and doing hatching, um, how to how to get from line art to something with shadows. Um, so let's kind of start with the basics, and that is um, in order to be able to do good light and shadow, you have to understand forms. So I'm not going to get into that too much. I'll make sure I'm clear here. But um, if you draw a sphere and you pick a direction that the light is coming from, you should be able to comfortably shade that in. And you can do this, a number of ways. There's a bunch of different hatching techniques that we can get into later, but I'll just use one of those, here now. And then we also know that we have cast shadow. Okay, now this is only really effective if this sphere is completely white, right? And in most cases it's not. But when we're talking about line art, generally in comic books, we know that we're going to color this area in. So we only really need to think about the purest dark areas and then the lines in between. So in the case of coloring it in, when they add value to it, it may look something more like this, right? But we still have this shadowy side. One approach to that is to have lines that are following the equator, getting thinner and thinner and thinner as we come closer to the light. And then the other one is to have lines like I did here at the beginning that are fatter and tapered to a point. It's not tapering. Check my brush set. I find it a little harder to taper, honestly, with a digital tablet than, but essentially, if it's dark on this side and I want to make it go towards the light, my pencil stroke lines are going to create shapes like this, right? They're thicker base, right? And ideally, if your pencil is worn down a little bit, or you're using, a nib, you can kind of get that whip very easily. With computer and digital stuff, I find that it doesn't do that as well as I'd like. But I don't know all the little inker secrets. I know a lot of people are inking digitally, but it really doesn't matter. That's a whole nother level of becoming an inker, how well you can matricle those hatch marks, all that kind of stuff, what kind of line control you have. That all comes down to practice, okay? But you need to start with the fundamentals, which is how shadow wraps around an object. If I put another object right here, we'll say a bent hand, right? It's got some bends in it here, and then, okay? And this is a little bit farther back than this. Notice what I'm doing here is when I'm casting this shadow, there's where the light is starting from, the source, and then where the ground plane is compared to the object. Now, if I draw a center line through those, like all the way back through this guy back here, and then through this would tell me where the shadow would end, okay? This is much closer. You'll see what I mean here in a second. But this also gives you a sense of what direction the light is hitting, because you can see that it's hitting right in the center of this can, which tells me that this is mostly going to be in the light, okay? Whereas this side is going to be in shadow. So I'm going to go ahead and shade that in. I want to get the shadows inside the folds. All right, now I need to start to feather in from the dark side to the light side. And so that's where I'm going to do that hatching. And different materials will use different types of hatching. If it's an organic material like clothing or cloth, there's going to be a lot more hatching. If it's metallics, you're going to get a lot more smooth edges, kind of like this. Now, light's coming in here, and this is bending down, so there's going to be light down here, and kind of start off heavy, and then lighten up as you go. Okay, and whereas this is the opposite. Okay, this is getting direct light, but there's probably something in there. Now, we also have the shadow back here. Now, this is the light source. Perhaps it's a candlestick. Okay. This is gonna be top of the light, and this is the center line that goes through my can. And wherever those two meet, which you can see is way out here, that's where the shadow is going to end. And I'm going to shade from both sides, which I know the other side is about over there, and get this shadow going. Now, that's the edge of the paper, so I don't need to go any farther than that. So now you can see that these two different shaped objects have a shadowy side from the same light source and a cast shadow that is moving. If I put another object, back here, like a triangle, right? This side's probably going to get some shadow on it. It's not going to have really any hatching because this is a hard edge. And then the next thing is to draw a line through the center of the pyramid here. And then from the top to the bottom of the pyramid, you can see that my shadow is casted there. Okay. And you just keep repeating that over and over again if you want. Let's do one more. And that is a cube. Okay. Any cube, just want to follow the laws of the perspective that you made. So I'm gonna again, I'm gonna have a shadowy side, dark side of the moon, if you will. And one of the two of these sides is gonna have a little bit of value to it. I'm probably gonna say this one, so I would maybe put some hatching on this side if I was doing this in black and white. Now, again, I'm going to draw through the center of this and through the center of that, but it's square, so we got to find a lot of different points, right? So I'm going to draw a line through this edge right here and through there. And if I come straight up, that point right there, turn this down, turn up my opacity. I'm drawing a line through this and through, and then another one on that same plane from the top of the light, that edge, and boom, that's where that shadow ends. I can match this angle a little bit, or I can draw a line through the center for the base of the match, through the center of there, and through the top of here to find out where they intersect. And there's another side over here. I usually just kind of wing that one, but and then we have the edge of our cast shadow. And it stops right there. So this is a little bit more advanced. This is combining perspective, and shadow. But essentially, these are the foundation. These are the base things that you need to know before you can get into the real nitty gritty of shading a character that has folds and clothing and all that stuff. So I'm going to move on past this. I'm going to pause this video here and make that probably one video, and then move on to part 2 of this video where I'm actually going to start applying it to panels.